I am here at the Fort Wayne Firefighters Museum, located off of Washington and Webster in downtown. This museum has been around for 50 years, putting on display artifacts and documenting the evolution of the firefighters here around the city. This is a journey, and I'm taking you on the inside. Let's do it. And joining me now is the Vice President of the Board of Directors of the Firefighters Museum and also a Captain of the Firefighter Department, Dennis Giere. Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going good.
Good. Okay, so we are in this museum. This museum is celebrating 50 years.
Yes, it is.
This year. How
Yes.
exciting, and congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
And kind of give us an overview of what you all have to offer in case someone hasn't heard of it.
Well, we're basically a museum. We house a lot of artifacts from the past of the Fort Wayne Fire Department, which started in 1839. So we have some equipment here that goes all the way back to 1860s,
Wow.
through the 1890s into the 1900s. So you can see how we progressed as a fire department here in Fort Wayne.
Right, and it's really cool. I mean, just kind of looking around immediately, I noticed how exposed the trucks were.
Yes.
And how riding along and really doing your job had to have been a bit harder with the type of equipment and how things have evolved over the years.
Well, they have, and they've really evolved over the years. We've got in the back the hand pumpers that were actually pushed to the fire by the firemen,
Wow.
up to the horse-drawn equipment, and then to the motorized, and even the motorized weren't enclosed. The firemen sat with no roof over them on the front, and they stood on the back bumper to get to the fire. So we've come quite a long way.
Right, yeah, and I think about even the ladders, right? Now they're attached to the
Yes.
truck. Before, did they have to like pull it out and run with?
Well, they had the
individual?
ground ladders back
Okay.
then, but even during the horse-drawn era, there were horse-drawn ladder trucks that were 100-foot ladder trucks just like we have today.
Wow. Yeah, and so we are standing here at an old firehouse, correct?
Yes.
So tell me just a little bit about this place.
Well, the building, the east side of it, the first two bays over there were originally built in 1893. We were using horse-drawn equipment at the time, so there were 4 horses in here with the 2 wagons that were here.
Wow.
This side was added in 1907, which added more equipment, and there were 8 more horses on this side. So at its peak, there were 12 horses in here.
Wow.
It evolved through the years. By 1920, it was all motorized. And it was an active station until 1972 when the station at Main and Lafayette was built. This was too close to it, so they closed it, and then we took it over in 74 and created the museum.
Yeah, and so how many different fire stations are there around town?
Fort Wayne right now has 18 stations.
Okay.
And they're numbered 1 through 19, only because when this became the museum, we were station number 3 at the time.
Yes.
They retired the number and we're still station 3. So we have 18 stations in Fort Wayne.
Okay, that's so awesome. And so as people come and look around, what do you think is some of the most interesting things that people would be shocked to learn about?
Well, what they respond the most to is the hand pumpers that were pushed to the fire by the firemen, and then the horse-drawn equipment. The motorized stuff is kind of, they can kind of tell what they are because they're similar to the trucks today.
Yeah.
But the old stuff is what they find most interesting.
Yeah, and how do you decide what goes into the museum? I mean, I'm sure you collect a lot over the years.
Yes.
But what is an artifact?
If it was used by the Fort Wayne Fire Department, we will put it on display. Even
Okay.
if we could get a brand new truck, we would put it on display. Of course, we don't have the room for it, and then they wouldn't fit inside the bays. But
Yeah.
anything Fort Wayne, or even fire related, we have quite a few displays down here that talk about fire history in general, not
Yeah.
just in Fort Wayne.
Okay, well, I would love to take a tour and kind of learn some history.
Sure.
Let's do it.
We can do that.
Okay, so Dennis, this room is the stall, the barn.
The horse stalls, yes.
Yes, that's awesome. And so what are we looking at here?
This is an original fire engine. This is a hand pumper that was pushed to the fire by the firemen, pushed and pulled, and then it was hand operated to get the water through the hoses.
Yeah. Okay, so this is like the original method of putting out a fire.
Yes, after the bucket brigades, then this was the original fire pumps.
That is crazy. So it was also, men were literally like running
Yes.
the truck to the fire.
Pulling it and pushing it to the
Can
fire.
you give me a little demonstration?
Well, they were on the side. I can't pull this up, but it was basically they were pushing it and pulling it.
So they were just running like chit, 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 chit.
Yep.
And then you say that this is actually a brake as well.
It's called a brake, but
Okay.
there's one on each side. When they got to the fire and when they were pumping the water, they got on each side and hand pumped this to run the piston pump that pushed the water through.
Okay, and then the water came up through this.
That was flipped down into the water supply, and it came through the hose into this, and then the hose from the hand cart would be hooked to the front, and that would go to the fire.
That would go to the fire. Wow. So fires were put out from a distance.
Not much of a different distance, but yes, from the outside.
Okay.
They didn't have the fire gear and the equipment we have today to go into a fire, so they literally just, and a lot of times if the building was fully involved, they were spraying water on the buildings around it to save them, and then tearing down the building with their pike poles and axes to make it like a controlled trash fire.
And then that's how they sprayed
fire,
it out. Wow. Okay, so this was the first way.
Yes.
And you say this went on through about
Into the 1860s
1860s. Okay,
Yes.
and then next.
is horse-drawn, steam-powered equipment.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, let's check that out next.